Welcome back. Trends, business challenges, issues shaping decision-making. CEOs have opinions on all of that. And once a year, PricewaterhouseCoopers conducts a global CEO survey that uncovers the secrets of the C-suite. So we went back to the source to get insight and analysis on the survey this year with the head of PwC's U.S. operation. Your annual CEO survey is highly anticipated. It gets a big audience at Davos, and I missed my flight to Davos, and I think many in our audience did. So we get the cheat sheet by having you here today. Talk about some of the things that struck you most from this year's CEO survey.
Yeah, there's a few things that came out in that CEO survey, and we've been doing it now 18 years. There's about 1,400 CEOs around the world that participate. First is actually their view on the economy. Actually, there's a lesser view on the strength of the economy on a global basis. That's different than a U.S. view. But particularly U.S. CEOs looking at that economy see a lot of risk in it on a global basis. Not a surprise when you think about volatility, think about the emerging markets slowing down and the like. The second big thing is the strength of the U.S. economy. Everyone around the world is saying the number one place to invest is the U.S. It's overtaken China now for the first time in the past 5 years.
That struck me. What do you think had changed?
It's two things, actually. One is obviously China has slowed down, so it actually hasn't come down that much, but the U.S. has risen a lot. And so why is that? It's because of the stability and the resiliency of the U.S. economy. As bad as perhaps people think it is sometimes, there is a lot of upside. It's a beacon of light around the rest of the world. Second, you've got a great consumer base, and you've got a great worker base. So those two things are really attractive from a foreign investment perspective and where they actually want to sell goods. And last but not least, U.S. companies and the U.S. environment is very focused on technological changes that impact how you do business. So the U.S. is a great test ground for kind of what the rest of the world wants to do. And that's a great opportunity for them to learn.
So in looking at the CEO survey, the way that it really struck me is this is the best of times, this is the worst of times. You've got 62% of your CEOs saying that they see more growth opportunities than 3 years ago. That's a phenomenal number, but they also say it is a world that is volatile and unpredictable. What is the volatility and the unpredictability that they are most concerned about?
The big issue that they're worried about is the competitive threat and the inability to actually react to the marketplace. The world's moving so fast right now, and that's why some companies see that upside. It's much different than it was 3 years ago. The question is, can they capture it? And on the downside, there's a lot of risk in terms of thinking about playing in a global economy now, playing with politics now, social unrest as you look at Europe and things that are happening in the Middle East and the like. But the question is, technology disruption is the biggest issue. So everybody's trying to refocus what's our game and how do we remain relevant for the future, and do we have to transform ourselves in a different world order to be successful for the long term?
The thing I like about the technology disruption is a lot of your CEOs, most of your CEOs, see that as almost a great equalizer, that everybody's got a chance to use technology to overtake the next guy. You have Michael Dell in the report saying that nobody has a lock on this market. You know, everyone's going to laugh and say, of course Michael Dell would like to think so, right, so that Apple doesn't have the lock on this market. But do you see technology as much as an equalizer as so many of your CEOs hope that it will be?
I think I do, because actually what technology is doing is disrupting everything. It's disrupting how do you interact with a consumer for a retail consumer company, a healthcare company alike. It's disrupting supply chains. So we think about big manufacturing companies, logistic companies, and things like that. So it's got an impact everywhere. And to Michael's point, it causes two things to happen. One is the CEOs have got to be really energetic about the change they need to drive. And second, they're thinking about, how do I actually change my business? Am I a retail business, or am I now a healthcare business? And repositioning that thinking in terms of what your relevancy is to society, your consumer, and your stakeholders is what it's all about. So that's the change that's looking forward.
In years past, companies were all racing to the top to use technology behind the scenes in terms of how they did business.
Right.
Now there was so much talk in this year's survey from CEOs about how do they better use technology in the front of the store so that consumers are using it. You gave the example of Domino's and how now you can order Domino's online. And believe me, with 3 boys, I do it all the time.
We all have that challenge, right?
So it struck me that can also backfire, and Domino's is a perfect example. Right. When I moved, there's a glitch, and now Domino's can't recognize my address online, right, and I can't tell you how much it annoys me to now have to call Domino's to place an order. Can it backfire to put such a premium on that customer technological experience?
I think it can backfire if you don't have the right focus on the ultimate customer, and keeping that customer experience consistent no matter if they move or if they're traveling or whatever the case may be. I also think it can backfire if you don't have the right amount of talent to actually manage for that. And that's one of the other things that came through in the CEO survey. CEOs are really worried about having the right talent, and it goes to the technology point. How many people understand it, and it's moving so fast, and how many people can actually apply it to the customer or to a supply chain or otherwise. So having the right talent is key there, and having the right focus on the end game. The customer experience, creating more revenue opportunities, more market share grab is great. The second big issue in technology, if you're not careful, if you're going to use more and more of it, go more social media, it is the issue of cyber risk. Cyber risk as a risk by itself is probably the biggest risk, but it's the biggest risk because the risk is real, but the preparedness is really low right now. So there's a big gap between the risk and ultimately what that may be coming to life. So it's causing people to spend more money, which will impact bottom lines. It's causing people to get the right talent. So those talented people are coming at a premium right now, and it's really costly. And man, you better keep pace with the changes that are happening from around the world.
Your CEOs are saying that 92% of them are now using more ways to recruit and hire that include online and social media. So that means that they're looking at people's Facebook pages and their whole Twitter history? I
think it's more to the aspect of they have got a presence in social media, and they therefore are using social media to actually attract people into their place. A person coming off a campus will look at an organization and say, you don't have anything on social media. Why do I kind of work with you? Because you don't get it. So if they don't have that presence, Kenley, they're not going to start opening the door to get those kids to want to come to them. So that's the first issue. The second issue, it's not so much an invasion of privacy issue. There's a lot of information out there in terms of looking at the Facebook accounts.
We're all putting it out there.
You're putting it out there. It is, how do I actually connect with you faster, better, cheaper? So rather than the face-to-faces, I will use now face-to-face plus an element of, can I tweet with you? Can I actually do a Facebook page with you? Can I connect with you and make that very personable to you as a way to say, this is an organization that gets it, and this is an organization that wants you to come to them.
What's the one biggest takeaway that you saw in this year's report compared to years past?
The biggest takeaway was that technology implication. It has come up so fast and is so important and so transformational to the positive and to the negative that that's the issue people need to be focused on at a government perspective from policy as well as from a business perspective as well.